They say you never really know someone until they show you their true colors. Yeah, I learned that the hard way. See, I'd just come back from what was supposed to be a peaceful getaway in Colorado. I was excited, right? Nothing but fresh mountain air, hiking, and escaping the chaos. But as soon as I pull up to my driveway, there's this dude standing there, a total stranger, telling me that my home, the penthouse I'd poured my soul into for over 20 years, was now his. And guess what? My daughter, Jennifer, sold it. Sold my home without telling me. I called her, right? Desperate for answers. But when she picks up, she just laughs at me, like it's a joke. "You're basically homeless now, Mom," she says. I didn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. But it's what she said next that hit me. "You didn't even know, huh? 'Kay? You signed all the paperwork, Mom. It's done." But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have possibly known, was that this wasn't gone. Not end the way she thought. I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I get into the crazy stuff that went down next, I want to know, where are you watching from right now? What time is it where you are? Drop a comment below. I love hearing from you all. And if you're liking what you're hearing so far, hit that like button. Share this with someone who might need this kind of drama. And subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. Trust me, you don't want to miss how this all ends. It gets wild. Now, let me rewind a bit. 3 weeks earlier, I was sitting in this cozy little cabin, right, in the Colorado mountains. I had this big warm blanket wrapped around me, sipping hot cocoa while watching the sun sink behind the peaks. I was 72, but that trip? It felt like I was finally breathing again. No phone calls, no stress, just me and nature, taking in all that fresh air. I hadn't felt that alive in years. I worked my whole life. Started as a secretary in the 70s, climbed up to paralegal, and by the time I retired, had enough to buy that penthouse. No debt. It was mine. It's 23 years of blood, sweat, and tears. It wasn't just a home. It was proof that I'd made it. But let us be real, I had no idea that while I was out there getting some much-needed peace, my daughter was out there literally erasing everything I built. I had no idea that the power of attorney signed 2 years ago, just a precaution when I had my gallbladder surgery, was about to be used against me. I spent my last day in Colorado at a farmer's market, buying trinkets for my grandkids, thinking about how I'd tell them all about my trip. Little did I know my daughter was about to sell my life's work. The drive back home was supposed to be peaceful. I was thinking about taking a bath, ordering takeout, and catching up with Jennifer. Nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to face. I pulled into my building's parking garage, rolled my suitcase to the elevator, and started heading up to the 15th floor. But something felt off. It was the little things, the smell of the hallway, the strange feeling I got when I looked at my door. When I reached my apartment, the lock was different, newer, shinier. And when I pressed the doorbell, a man I'd never seen before opened the door, a chain lock preventing him from fully letting me in. "Who are you?" asked, trying to keep calm. "I'm Margaret Torres," he said, clearly confused. "I live here." I blinked. "No, you don't." "I do," but before I could even process what was happening, the man's wife stepped forward, calmly telling me that they'd bought my penthouse 3 weeks ago. I was frozen. This couldn't be happening. "You what?" I whispered. "You didn't buy my home. It's not for sale." They handed me the documents, and I could barely breathe. Jennifer had sold my home while I was gone, behind my back. And when I demanded to know who sold it to them, the answer hit me like a punch in the gut. "It was your daughter," the man said, his voice casual. "Jennifer Torres Brennan. She had all the paperwork. Said you were moving to a care facility. That was it. That was the moment I realized I didn't know my daughter anymore. I stood there in my own hallway, frozen for what felt like an eternity. My head was spinning, and the floor beneath me felt like it was about to drop out. The apartment I had worked my entire life for, built my future on, sold behind my back. By my daughter. Jennifer was gone. I didn't know what to say. Didn't know where to even begin. But I had to start somewhere. Who the hell does she think she is? I muttered, pacing back and forth. The man, the stranger who just opened my door, stood there awkwardly, his wife behind him, looking like she'd just caught me in the middle of a soap opera. I could barely focus on what they were saying. My ears were ringing. The man, trying to be polite, said, "I'm really sorry, ma'am, but all the paperwork is in order. Your daughter signed everything, including the transfer of property." I know it's a lot to take in. I wasn't hearing any of that. All I could hear was my heart pounding in my chest and the words repeating in my head. My daughter sold my home. I didn't waste any more time with them. I stormed out of my building and down the stairs, hoping that maybe, just maybe, the first words I'd hear would be Jennifer's voice saying, "I'm sorry, Mom. It was a mistake." But when I called her, it went straight to voicemail. I tried again, Kay, and again. By the time I called for the fifth time, I was losing it. I needed answers. How could she do this to me? To her own mother. I tried a different approach and called her husband, Jake. "Jake, you've got to talk to Jennifer. She needs to explain this to me." The phone clicked before he even spoke. His tone cold. "I don't know what you're talking about, Alice. Ask her yourself." "Is she with you?" I demanded. "Tell her to call me back. Now." Jake sighed, barely hiding the frustration in his voice. "She's busy. She's working. I don't know when she'll be free to deal with whatever this is." That was it. He hung up before I could say another word. The drive to Jennifer's place felt like it took forever. I could barely concentrate on the road. I wasn't angry anymore. I was hurt. Deep, soul-crushing hurt. I never thought I'd feel this way about my own daughter, the woman I raised. When I pulled up to her apartment building, I knew something had changed. There were cars parked outside I didn't recognize. The lights inside her apartment were on, but the shades were drawn. As I rang the doorbell, my hand was shaking. But when the door opened, what hit me was a mix of relief and rage. There she was, standing in front of me with that same tight smile she always wore when she knew she had me where she wanted me. The perfect daughter, always the good girl. But now she was hiding something, and I could see it in her eyes. "Mom, what are you doing here?" She tried to sound casual, but I could see the panic creeping up. I didn't let her close the door. My voice was low but intense. "What did you do, Jennifer?" She looked at me for a split second before she glanced around the room, almost as if she was looking for someone to help her. I wasn't giving her an out. "You sold my penthouse without telling me, without my consent. How could you do that to me?" Jennifer stepped back, crossing her arms. "It's complicated, Mom. I didn't have a choice." "You didn't have a choice," I repeated, raising my voice. "You didn't have a choice? You think that's what I'm supposed to believe?" She sighed, stepping away from the door. "I didn't mean to hurt you, but I had no other option." The bills were piling up and I was sinking. I couldn't believe my ears. Bills. What the hell was she talking about? She lived in a gorgeous apartment with everything paid for. I never said a word about her life choices, but this was my home. The one place that was supposed to be safe. My sanctuary. And now it was gone. "You've been stealing from me for years, Jennifer?" I said. And you sold the one thing I had left. What else have you been doing? What else are you hiding from me?" Jennifer's eyes widened. I could tell the guilt was starting to sink in. Um, she shook her head, clearly avoiding the truth. "Spit it out, Jennifer. What are you hiding? I want to know everything." She hesitated, biting her lip. "Okay, fine. I did sell the penthouse, but it was the only way to fix things." "Fix what?" I snapped. "What the hell are you talking about?" Jennifer shifted uncomfortably. "The money wasn't enough. I used it to cover the debts, to keep the family afloat. Jake's been struggling for months with his company, and I interrupted Jake. "You sold my place to bail him out." "Yes," she shouted, looking at me in frustration. "You think I wanted to do that? I had no choice, Mom. If we didn't act fast, we'd lose everything. The house, the car, our savings, everything. We needed something to hold on to." I stood there absolutely stunned. So this was about her husband, the guy who didn't have a job, who was barely scraping by, and yet had the nerve to pull her into this mess. And I was the one who paid the price. "Everything," I said, finally understanding. "So you've been lying to me this whole time. Selling my things, running my life, while you sit here pretending everything is fine." For a moment, the room went silent. Then Jennifer spoke barely above a whisper. "I didn't want to hurt you, Mom, but I was drowning. We were drowning." I didn't know what else to do. Her words hit like a tidal wave, but I couldn't even find the strength to respond. I felt like I was slipping under the weight of all her lies, the betrayal, and the realization that my daughter wasn't who I thought she was. "I thought you were my family. I thought you'd always have my back, Jennifer. But now I see I was just another way to fix your mess." I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. The pain, the anger, the confusion, it was too much. Jennifer stood there, her face pale and filled with guilt. "Mom, I never meant for it to go this far." I looked at her one last time, shook my head, and walked out the door without another word. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay in that apartment. Not anymore. I walked out of Jennifer's apartment, my heart heavy like I was carrying bricks. My mind raced, thoughts colliding, emotions flooding me all at once. I couldn't believe it. The penthouse was gone, sold off without my consent. And for what? To fix a marriage that was already on life support? I drove aimlessly for a while, but I couldn't shake that gnawing feeling. I had no place left, no home, no family that felt like family anymore. I pulled into a gas station, barely remembering what I was doing. I grabbed a coffee, sat in my car, and just stared at the dashboard. I didn't know what to do next, but the voice in my head was growing louder. I had to find out what else Jennifer was hiding. I drove home that night knowing I couldn't just walk away from this. I had to know the truth, even if it hurt. I knew where to go. I'd been avoiding calling Jake. He was Jennifer's husband, but he wasn't a stranger. Over the years, I'd given him more chances than he deserved, letting him off the hook for things that felt off. But now, it was time to confront him. I grabbed my phone and dialed his number. He picked up on the third ring. "Hello? Jake, it's Alice." My voice was tight. "We need to talk." There was a long pause. I could hear the hesitation in his voice. "Now, I'm a little busy with work." I gritted my teeth. "You're busy with work after what your wife did. You have nerve calling me about work right now." He sighed, his voice flat. "What are you talking about, Alice?" "Cut the crap, Jake," I snapped. "You and Jennifer sold my penthouse. You know what I'm talking about? She told me you two were drowning in bills. How bad is it really? At. There was a long silence on the other end. At. I could practically hear the gears turning in his head. Look, he finally said, it's not what you think. I laughed bitterly. Oh, I think I know exactly what it is. I showed up at Jake and Jennifer's place, determined to get the truth out of him. When he opened the door, there was no hiding the tension in his eyes. Hi, Alice, he said, but his voice didn't carry the same confidence it usually did. It was forced. Don't act like this is a social visit, Jake, I said, walking past him into the living room. We need to talk about what you two did. He closed the door behind us. I'm not sure what you think is going on here, but it's not like you imagine. Then tell me, Jake, I said, standing up straight, my eyes narrowing. Tell me why you decided to sell my home, why you put your debts and your problems on my shoulders. Why did you sell my life away without even consulting me? He shifted uncomfortably. I didn't think you'd understand. Understand that you're both acting like you're entitled to what I worked for. That you sold my home to pay off your bad choices. What else are you hiding, Jake? He looked away, rubbing the back of his neck. Look, Alice. It wasn't just about the house. Jennifer and I have been struggling for a long time. We both have debts we can't manage. But I swear I didn't want it to come to this. Jennifer's been under so much stress. I interrupted. You sold my home, Jake. This wasn't stress. This was you too, thinking you could get away with everything. Jake sighed and sat down on the couch, looking defeated. I should have told you sooner. I should have been honest, but I was scared. You've always been a safety net for us, Alice. I didn't know what else to do. I wasn't about to let him off that easily. Something about his tone, his guilt, made me feel like I was only getting half the story. Scared? That's your excuse. I said, my voice rising. You're telling me you were scared when I had a home, my home? And you knew what it meant to me? He looked up at me, his eyes filled with regret. Jennifer. She didn't want you to know. She didn't want you to feel the weight of all this. But it wasn't just about the house. We were trying to cover a lot more. There are some things I never should have let go this far. What do you mean by things, Jake? I asked, my curiosity getting the better of me. His face paled. He didn't want to say it, but I could see he knew he had no choice now. There's more debt than you know. The bills were the least of it. Jennifer and we've been involved with some people we shouldn't have. They're not just creditors. They're not just angry collectors. I leaned in, urgency pressing on me. Who, Jake? Who else are you involved with? Jake hesitated, then whispered, loan sharks. They came for us, Alice. They said if we didn't pay by the end of the month, things would get worse. Much worse. I felt my stomach churn. Loan sharks. This was more than I could have ever imagined. Jennifer had sold my penthouse, but it wasn't just to get out of a little financial mess. It was to keep herself and Jake safe. But the real danger was still hanging over their heads. I stood there, breathing hard, trying to wrap my head around what Jake had just said. The man I thought I knew, my son-in-law, who had always been charming, smooth, and successful, was involved in something dark, dangerous. I looked at him and said, "You've really dragged us all into this, haven't you?" He nodded silently. I could feel the rage building up inside me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit something, but I kept it together. Jennifer wasn't just dealing with a bad marriage and a few bad choices. She was hiding an entire world of danger. I turned to leave, my mind whirling with what to do next. But before I opened the door, I turned back to Jake. "I'm not helping you cover this up, Jake. Not now, not ever. You and Jennifer need to figure out how to fix your mess, but I'm done being your safety net. I slammed the door behind me. I didn't know where to go. The streets outside felt like they were closing in on me. I walked for miles, not knowing what to think, who to trust, or what to do next. As I walked through the darkened city streets, I realized something. I had to confront Jennifer. I couldn't let her hide from the truth anymore. And I had a feeling she wasn't going to like what I had to say. The drive back home felt like I was carrying the weight of the world in my chest. The air outside had turned cold, the kind of cold that makes your breath visible and your thoughts hard to focus on. I barely knew what I was feeling anymore. Shock, disbelief, anger, all swirling together into something hard and jagged. I had just walked out on Jake after the conversation about loan sharks and debts. The truth was finally out. But the truth only made things worse. I couldn't even wrap my head around what I'd just learned. Jennifer had lied to me about everything. She sold my penthouse, but she had just been keeping financial problems from me. There were deeper, darker secrets. The worst part? She didn't even see it as a problem. She saw it as a solution. I got home, slammed the door, and threw my keys down on the counter. I walked straight to the living room, but before I even sat down, my phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. "Can we talk?" "I'm sorry. I know you're mad, but please just let me explain everything." Explain everything? I'd heard enough. My daughter had lied to me, sold my home without even blinking, and now she wanted to explain. There was nothing to explain. I didn't need an explanation. I needed answers. And I wasn't going to get them with more of her half-truths. But I didn't delete the message, didn't call back. I just sat down on the couch, staring at my phone screen, torn between wanting to tear her apart and wanting to understand why she'd done it. I couldn't decide. It was 3 a.m. when I heard the knock on the door. Jennifer stood there, her face pale and tear-streaked, eyes swollen from crying. I didn't let her in at first. I wasn't sure I was ready to deal with this, but there was something in her eyes, a mix of desperation and regret that made me soften just enough to let her in. She stood in front of me, quiet for a long while, like she didn't know how to say the words. Then she finally spoke. "Mom, I don't know what to say. I've messed up, I've hurt you, and I'm sorry, but I didn't know what else to do." I folded my arms, narrowing my eyes. "You didn't know what to do. You knew exactly what you were doing when you sold my penthouse. You knew what it meant to me. I was trying to protect us, Mom," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Jake and I were drowning. I didn't want to bring you into it. I thought if I could fix things without you knowing, everything would be fine." I shook my head. "So, you thought selling my home without telling me was the best way to fix things? You thought I wouldn't find out? You really thought you could just get away with this?" Jennifer's voice broke. "I thought you'd be mad, but I never thought you'd feel this hurt." She looked at me, but I couldn't look at her. Not now, not after everything. Jennifer tried again. "You don't get it, Mom. I was under so much pressure. Jake's been hiding things from me for months. I thought if I could just fix it, I could save our family. I didn't know what else to do. You thought stealing from me would fix things." I demanded, "Do you think I'm some kind of bank, Jennifer? Do you think you could just take from me without it hurting?" "I never meant to hurt you," she said, voice cracking. "I thought you'd understand when you saw how bad it got. I thought you'd see that I was trying to make it right." Her words were like knives, stabbing me in the chest. But it wasn't the betrayal that hurt. It was the fact that she genuinely believed she could hide something so huge from me. She was lost, and so was I. I had no idea what to say. I took a deep breath, struggling to keep my composure. Jennifer, the money isn't what hurts. What hurts is that you've been keeping this secret. You've been lying to me for God knows how long. You and Jake have been stealing from each other, from me, and now you expect me to just forgive it all because you say you're sorry? Jennifer flinched, tears streaming down her face. I don't know what else to say, Mom. I wish I could undo it, but I can't. Please. Didn't have any more words left for her. My head felt foggy. The pain was too much. My daughter had done something unforgivable, but I could see she was truly remorseful. Or maybe she was just desperate. I didn't know. I don't know what you want from me, I said finally. But I know what I can't do. I can't be your safety net anymore. I can't keep fixing everything for you. Jennifer nodded, silently accepting the truth. I know. I don't deserve your forgiveness. For a long moment, we just stood there, neither of us knowing what came next. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, Jennifer dropped the bombshell. I wasn't the only one involved. I froze, my heart skipping a beat. What do you mean? She looked down, ashamed. Jake, he's been gambling. Big amounts. He's in deeper than I thought. The money we used from the penthouse wasn't just to cover the bills. He had debts, Mom. Major ones. And he's been hiding it all from me. My eyes widened in disbelief. What do you mean, major debts? How bad is it? Jennifer shook her head, her voice shaking. He borrowed money from dangerous people. Loan sharks. I didn't know. He told me everything would be fine, that he'd pay it all back. But he's not going to make it. They want their money, and if they don't get it... She trailed off, and the silence in the room grew heavy. I stared at her, processing everything. My daughter, the woman I thought I knew, had been living in a nightmare. And the worst part was, she hadn't even seen it coming. Is that why you sold my penthouse? I whispered. To cover for Jake's debts, you risked everything. For him. Jennifer nodded, her face pale. I thought I was saving us, Mom. But now it's all falling apart. I stood up, my mind racing. You can't keep running from this, Jennifer. You can't keep covering for him. You've got to face the consequences. She nodded again, but there was nothing left in her eyes. She was broken. I don't know what to do, she said. Neither do I replied quietly. But the first step is telling the truth. No more lies. No more hiding. Jennifer sat down, defeated. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just about a house. It was about saving my daughter, saving her from herself. The silence in the room felt suffocating. I didn't know what to say. Jennifer sat across from me, her hands clenched in her lap, eyes vacant, lost somewhere between guilt and confusion. The weight of what she had told me about Jake, the loans, the gambling, the loan sharks was too much to process. My own daughter, caught up in a web of lies so tangled she didn't know how to escape. I walked across the room, pacing. There was no escape from this. No more pretending it was a simple mistake. This was a mess of epic proportions, and it was only getting worse. You're telling me, Jennifer, that not only did you sell my penthouse, but now you've got loan sharks after you, after Jake? My voice was barely above a whisper, but it was enough to carry the weight of everything I was feeling. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. She just nodded. I can't believe this, I muttered, sitting down on the couch. I can't believe you let it get this bad. You let him drag you into his mess, and now I'm in it too. I didn't want this, Mom, she cried, her voice shaking. I didn't want to hurt you. But when you're in the middle of it, you don't see a way out. I thought I could fix everything. I thought I could fix him. I turned to face her, the rage and hurt mixing into something that felt like a storm in my chest. And I'm the one who has to pay for your choices, for his mistakes. How many times am I supposed to bail you out, Jennifer? She flinched. I never asked you to bail me out. I didn't know what else to do. I was desperate. As I sat there trying to process what she had just said, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. The woman I had trusted with everything, my family, my life, had taken the most important thing I had and sold it without a second thought. I stood up again, my legs feeling weak. I told you, Jennifer, you can't fix someone else's mess. You have to deal with your own consequences, or it'll drag everyone else down with you. She looked up at me, her face twisted with pain. What am I supposed to do, Mom? I'm stuck. Jake, he's not who he used to be. He's lying to me, and he's scared. He's not handling this well, and I mind trying to fix it. And what if it's too late? I asked, my voice raw with emotion. What if he's already done too much damage? You can't fix him, Jennifer. You can't fix us. The tension between us was unbearable. It was like there was a wall between us now, one I couldn't break down. For the first time in my life, I realized I was the one who had to make a choice. I couldn't keep cleaning up their messes, pretending everything would be okay. You need to call Jake, Jennifer. You need to tell him that I'm not part of his scheme anymore. You both need to figure this out on your own. But, Mom, no, I'm done, I interrupted, feeling a sense of clarity settle in. I've let you both drag me into your problems long enough. I thought you were going to stand up for yourself, but instead, you're giving away everything I've worked for. I can't keep letting this happen. Tears spilled from Jennifer's eyes. Mom, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I just didn't want to lose everything. But now I'm losing you. I looked at her, my heart breaking. You're already losing me, Jennifer. You've been losing me for a long time. But this is the breaking point. As if the universe wasn't done with me yet. The doorbell rang. Jennifer wiped her eyes quickly, but I could tell she was still a wreck. She didn't want Jake to see her like this, but there was no going back. He had to face the music, too. She hesitated but went to open the door. The moment Jake stepped inside, I could see the tension in his body. His eyes darted between Jennifer and me, clearly aware of the tension. But he wasn't prepared for what was about to happen. You're finally here, I said coldly. We need to talk. Jake swallowed hard but tried to keep his cool. Alice, what's going on? Jennifer's Ben? I know everything, I said, cutting him off. I know about the gambling, the loans, the mess you've dragged my daughter into. And I know you used her to cover up your mistakes. He opened his mouth to protest, but I wasn't having it. You don't get to explain yourself, Jake. You made your bed, and now you've got to lie in it. I'm done being a safety net for both of you. Jennifer stepped forward, pleading, Mom, please. I never wanted this. I never meant to hurt you. But I was scared. I didn't flinch. Scared? This is about more than being scared. This is about responsibility. And right now, you're both avoiding it. Jake seemed to crumble at that. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I never wanted to drag you into this, Alice. I thought I could handle it on my own, but I couldn't. I looked at Jennifer. You need to make a choice, Jennifer. This is your life. But I'm not going to sit here and watch you ruin everything for me, too. I turned to Jake. You need to get out of my life. I can't fix your mess anymore. He stood still for a moment, his face frozen, as if processing everything. But deep down, I could see he knew this was the end. I looked back at Jennifer. And you need to fix this, but I can't do it for you anymore. She nodded silently, but I could see the tears starting to fall again. I'll fix it, Mom. I promise. I'll fix it all. But I couldn't believe her. Not anymore. I'd heard those words too many times. That night, I sat alone, staring out at the city lights from my small apartment. The penthouse was gone. My family, as I knew it, was gone. I felt lighter in some ways, like I'd finally gotten the weight off my shoulders. But the truth is, sometimes freedom doesn't feel like freedom at all. I spent the next few weeks making decisions, hard, painful decisions. I had to cut ties with people I thought I'd never walk away from. Jennifer, Jake, and even the people who enabled them. But now it was about taking back control. It was a few weeks after the confrontation with Jennifer and Jake. The air felt colder now, and every step I took seemed heavier than before. I tried to get back to some semblance of normalcy, but the reality of what had happened still hung over me like a dark cloud. The penthouse was sold, my daughter's secrets laid bare, and the truth about Jake's debts was something I couldn't ignore anymore. I had to make a choice, a final choice, a choice that would determine what kind of future I had and whether I was willing to let the past define me or let it go completely. One afternoon, as I sat at the kitchen table, sifting through papers and trying to distract myself from the heavy thoughts in my mind, the doorbell rang. It was Jennifer. Again, she didn't look like the confident daughter I once knew. This time, her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. Her body language screamed exhaustion and guilt, like she had been carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. "I need to talk," she said quietly, stepping inside without waiting for me to invite her in. I didn't say a word, just motioned for her to sit across from me. There was so much anger inside me, so much hurt, but I knew I had to hear what she had to say. I had to know if she truly understood what she had done. Jennifer pulled out a small envelope from her bag and placed it in front of me. I wrote this. I thought, maybe this will help you understand. I stared at the envelope for a moment, unsure of what to expect. I wasn't sure if I could trust anything she said anymore. But deep down, I knew she was desperate. She needed me to hear her, just one last time. I opened the envelope and unfolded the letter. It read, "Dear Mom, I know I've hurt you in ways I can't even begin to understand. The truth is, I didn't know how to handle everything that was happening in our lives. I was trying to fix things, but I ended up making everything worse. I lied to you, I kept secrets, and I sold the one thing that meant the most to you, all because I thought it would fix Jake's problems. But it didn't. It never does. I am so sorry, Mom. I was selfish, and I let you down. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway. I need you to know that I've been seeing a therapist. I've been working through my issues, and I finally understand why I've been making all these mistakes. It's because I've been running from the truth about myself. I want to make things right, but I know it's not going to happen overnight. I just want you to know that I'm trying. I don't expect everything to go back to how it was, but I'm hoping one day you'll forgive me. Love, Jennifer." I sat in silence for what felt like forever. The letter was sincere. She acknowledged everything, the lies, the betrayal, the mess she had caused. But was it enough? Could I forgive her? Could I forget the damage she'd done? I looked up from the letter, locking eyes with Jennifer. Her face was a mix of hope and fear, as if she was waiting for me to decide her fate. But it wasn't that simple. "I can't just forget what happened, Jennifer," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But you're right. You've been hiding from the truth for a long time. And maybe Maybe you're ready to face it now. She nodded quickly, tears welling up again. I'm ready, Mom. I swear. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on me. Forgiveness wasn't something I could give easily. I had spent too many years building my life, building my home, my family, only for it all to be taken away in an instant. It felt like I had lost my daughter, my trust, my sense of security all at once, but I had to make a choice. I had to choose whether I was going to let her go or if I was going to fight for her, fight for the family I once knew, the family I hoped she could still be a part of. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, Jennifer, I said slowly. But if you really want to fix this, you have to start by proving it. Proving to me, to yourself, that you're done hiding. She nodded, wiping her tears. I will, I promise. For the first time in months, I saw a glimmer of the woman she used to be. The daughter I remembered. But this time, I knew she wasn't the same person. She had changed. And maybe, just maybe, that was the first step toward healing. The next morning, I called Jake. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I knew this had to happen. He needed to face what he had done, not just to me, but to Jennifer, to our family. Jake, I said when he answered, we need to talk. In person, there was a long pause before he finally spoke. Alice, listen. No, you listen. I cut him off. You sold my penthouse. You brought danger into our lives and you put everything at risk. And now I'm done with all your excuses. It's time for you to face the consequences. He didn't argue. He just said, I'll be there in an hour. Jake showed up looking like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. He was sweaty, disheveled, and clearly exhausted. But this time there were no lies in his eyes. Just raw guilt. I didn't waste time. What did you think was going to happen, Jake? You thought you could gamble away everything and that there would be no consequences. I never meant for it to get this far, Alice, he said, his voice cracking. I messed up. I know. I put Jennifer in danger, and I put you in a position where you had to save me. I'm sorry. You're sorry. I repeated incredulously. Sorry doesn't cut it, Jake. I've spent years building my life, and you've destroyed it. Jennifer stood behind me, her hands trembling. Mom, please. Jake looked at her, his face full of regret. I never meant to drag you into this, Jennifer. I'm sorry. Jennifer stepped forward, her voice shaking. You can't fix this, Jake. You can't just say sorry and expect everything to go back to normal. I know, he whispered. I know. I looked at both of them. Jennifer, the daughter I still loved despite everything, and Jake, the man who had broken my trust and put our family at risk. But as I stood there, staring at them, I realized something. I wasn't going to keep letting this destroy me. I wasn't going to let their mistakes ruin my peace. Here's the thing, Jake, I said, turning toward him. You're not going to get away with this. Not by apologizing, not by hiding. You've got to fix this. Jennifer's got to fix this. But you're on your own now. He nodded, accepting it, his head hanging low. I turned to Jennifer. I don't know if I can forgive you yet. But you have to show me you're ready to fix what you've done. And that means taking responsibility for your actions. Not just with me, with yourself. She nodded, her eyes full of shame. I'll do whatever it takes, Mom. I swear. Days had passed since my conversation with Jennifer and Jake. The tension in the house was unbearable. Every room I entered seemed to echo with the weight of the lies that had been told, the promises that had been broken. Jennifer and I barely spoke, and Jake, he had all but disappeared. It was almost as if they were hoping time would erase the damage they'd done. But I wasn't going to let it slide. Not this time. I knew I couldn't avoid the truth forever. The time had come to decide whether we were going to heal or let the mess they created completely destroy us. I woke up one morning to the sound of knocking at the door. I knew who it was before I even looked through the peephole. Jake, I hadn't. He's seen him since the day he apologized, the day I told him that his actions had consequences. But he'd been quiet, too quiet. Hadn't heard from him, hadn't seen him around, and I hadn't even gotten any updates from Jennifer. Something was off. I opened the door to find him standing there, his eyes tired, his face gaunt. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Alice," he said, his voice hoarse. "I need to talk to you." "I'm listening," I said coldly, not moving from the doorway. Jake sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. "I know I've messed up. I've hurt you, and I've hurt Jennifer. I don't expect you to forgive me right now, but I need you to know I'm trying to fix it." I didn't say anything for a moment, just stood there trying to process the pain I felt. Fix it. Jake, you can't just say that and think everything will magically be okay. You've put me, Jennifer, and this entire family through hell. And you don't get to fix that with a couple of words. "I know," he said quietly. "I'm not asking you to forget it. I just need you to understand that I've been working on getting help. I've been seeing a financial advisor, and I've been trying to settle my debts. All of them. I've even been speaking to the loan sharks. They're giving me time, but they're not going to be patient forever." I shook my head. "Jake, you should have done that before you dragged us into it. This isn't just about paying off your debts. This is about trust, and you broke that trust. Not once, but over and over again." Jake's shoulders sagged, as if the weight of his own guilt was finally catching up to him. "I know I can't change the past, Alice. I know I can't undo the damage I've caused, but I'm trying. I don't want to lose Jennifer. I don't want to lose you." Later that day, I called Jennifer. I couldn't keep avoiding the conversation. We needed to talk. She showed up at my door just as the sun began to set, the golden light spilling across the room. She looked different, more mature, more aware of the weight of her decisions, but she was still my daughter. And in that moment, I wasn't sure if I wanted to embrace her or let her go. "Mom, she began, but I stopped her with a single gesture. "Jennifer, we need to talk. No more lies. No more running away from what you've done. You've hurt me more than I ever thought possible. And I need to know if you're ready to face the consequences of your actions." She lowered her eyes, nodding slowly. I know I've hurt you. And I've hurt Dad too. But I didn't know how to fix things. I didn't know who to turn to. I walked to the window, looking out at the city below. "You turned to the people who love you, Jennifer. But you didn't. You kept hiding the truth. You kept pretending everything was fine. And now look where we are." She looked up at me, eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I never meant to drag you into this. I never wanted you to find out the way you did. Then why didn't you tell me the truth from the beginning?" I asked, turning back to face her. "Why didn't you trust me enough to be honest with me?" She wiped her eyes, her voice breaking. "I thought I could handle it on my own. I thought I could fix things without bringing you into it. But I was wrong. It's been wrong about so many things. I just wanted to make it right." I sighed deeply, my heart torn. "I know you want to make it right, Jennifer, but you can't fix what's broken with just words. You have to show me, you have to prove that you're ready to take responsibility for your actions." Jennifer nodded, I will. I promise I will. The next few days were a blur of conversations, decisions, and more revelations. Jennifer did everything she could to make things right. She started working with a financial advisor, just like Jake. They made a plan to pay off the debts, all of them. Jennifer even went as far as to sell some of her own personal belongings to help pay back what they owed. But I knew this wasn't just about money. It was about trust. It's about proving that she was ready to face the consequences of her actions, no matter how painful it might be. On the day they made the final payment to the loan sharks, I watched them, both of them standing there together, making the hardest choice they'd ever made. I didn't know if I would ever fully forgive Jennifer, but I knew I couldn't hold on to this anger forever. I couldn't keep punishing her for the mistakes she made, because in the end, it wasn't just about what she'd done. It was about whether or not we could move forward. That night, after everything had settled, Jennifer and I sat on the porch, the cool air brushing past us as we looked at the stars. "Mom," Jennifer said, her voice quiet, "I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I hope one day you can see that I'm trying. I'm really trying to fix this." I turned to her, my heart heavy but hopeful. "You're trying, Jennifer. That's all I can ask for right now." We sat there in silence for a while, the weight of the world lifting little by little with every passing minute. Weeks passed. Life started to return to some sort of normal. Jennifer and Jake were paying off their debts, and I was slowly rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. But there were still days when the pain crept back in. There were still nights when I found myself questioning everything. But in the end, I had to choose. I had to choose whether I would let the past define me or whether I would fight for the future. And I chose the future. I chose to believe that even the darkest secrets could be healed, even if it took time. It had been a few months since Jennifer and Jake began making their attempts at redemption. The weight of the past was still heavy, but there was an undeniable shift. They were trying. And that in itself was a step forward. But for me, I was still holding on to so much hurt, so much anger. The years of trust that had been shattered couldn't be rebuilt overnight. I wasn't expecting forgiveness to be easy, but I knew that if there was going to be peace, real peace, it had to start with me. And that was the hardest part, learning to forgive. One morning, as I was sorting through some old photos, my phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I would have let it go to voicemail, but something in my gut told me I should answer. I picked up the phone, my voice cold. "Hello, Alice. It's me, Jake." There it was. The man who had broken my heart, who had dragged my daughter into a nightmare, was back. But this time, it wasn't just an apology. I could hear the urgency in his voice. "Jake, what is it?" I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Alice, I need to meet. It's about Jennifer." "Jennifer, what's wrong with her?" I asked, my heart skipping a beat. "It's not what you think. I can't explain everything over the phone. Just meet me at the foundation, please." I didn't know what to expect, but I knew this was the moment that could either tear us apart or finally put everything to rest. I agreed. The foundation had been running for over a year now, and Jacqueline had taken over most of the day-to-day operations. It was supposed to be a place for healing, for second chances. When I arrived, Jake was waiting outside, pacing. He looked nothing like the man I'd confronted months ago. There were no bravado, no excuses, just a man on the verge of breaking. "Jake, what's going on?" I asked, trying to read his expression. He stopped pacing and turned to me. "It's Jennifer. She's been keeping something from you. something big, and I think you need to know." My stomach churned. "What is it, Jake? What's going on with my daughter?" He hesitated for a long moment before speaking. "She's been diagnosed with depression, severe depression, and it's been getting worse. She hasn't been herself. I think she's been hiding it from you. From all of us, I felt like the ground had just been ripped out from under me." "Depression," I whispered. He nodded. "She didn't want you to know. She thought you'd blame her for everything that happened, but it's not her fault. Alice, she's been struggling for months, and I don't think I can handle it on my own anymore. I don't know how to help her." My heart broke for Jennifer. All the anger I'd held onto for so long suddenly felt so insignificant. She wasn't just hiding her mistakes. She was hiding the pain that had been eating her alive, and I hadn't seen it. I hadn't noticed. "Where is she?" I asked quietly, almost afraid of what I might hear. "She's at home," Jake said. "Right. I need you to know. This isn't just about the money or the house. This is about saving Jennifer, and I think it's time she gets the help she needs." I went straight to Jennifer's apartment. My heart was heavy, but this time it wasn't with anger. It was with compassion. When she opened the door, she looked at me as if she didn't know what to expect. Her eyes were tired, puffy. She hadn't been sleeping well, and she looked smaller, somehow defeated. "Mom," she whispered, stepping back, "I didn't want you to see me like this. I didn't say anything at first. I just walked in, pulled her into my arms, and held her. You don't have to hide, Jennifer. I'm here, right here." She broke down in my arms, sobbing. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry for everything I did. I thought if I could just fix it all, everything would be okay. But I couldn't fix myself. And now I've messed everything up." I sat her down on the couch, holding her hands. "Jennifer, we can fix this together. But you have to let me help you. You can't keep carrying all this weight on your own." Over the next few weeks, things began to change. Jennifer started therapy, going every week to confront the depression that had been secretly consuming her. Jake was right by her side, doing everything he could to support her. They went through couples therapy and, for the first time, saw them working together. Not hiding from each other, but facing the hard truths. But for me, I had to come to terms with my own forgiveness. It wasn't easy. There were days when I wanted to walk away, to leave it all behind. The betrayal still stung. But I knew deep down that I couldn't heal if I didn't forgive. The breakthrough moment one day, Jennifer came over to my apartment. She looked different, not just physically, but emotionally. There was a lightness in her eyes I hadn't seen in a long time. "Mom, I wanted to show you something," she said, holding out a piece of paper. It was a thank you letter from the therapist's office. She had completed her first month of therapy, and for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. "I'm getting better," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I don't know if I'll ever be the same person, but I'm starting to feel like me again. And it's all because you didn't give up on me." I took her hand in mine, tears filling my eyes. "I never gave up on you, Jennifer. I just needed to see that you were ready to fight for yourself." A few months later, the foundation held its annual fundraising event. Jennifer and Jake were both there, standing together, stronger than I had ever seen them. Jennifer spoke at the event, talking about her journey, her mistakes, her healing, and the love and support she had found along the way. "I've hurt a lot of people," she said, her voice cracking. "But the one person I hurt the most was myself. I've spent so long running from who I am, from the pain I've caused, that I forgot what it meant to truly love and forgive. But now I'm learning that redemption doesn't come from fixing everything. It comes from accepting yourself, even when you're broken. The crowd applauded. And in that moment, I realized that her standing up, telling the truth, taking responsibility was what true redemption looked like. It wasn't just about what had happened, but about how you moved forward from it. As the night ended, I stood on the balcony overlooking the city, watching the lights flicker below. I had no idea what the future held for me, for Jennifer, or for Jake. But I knew one thing for sure. Peace wasn't something you found, it was something you built, one choice at a time. And tonight, I'd made the choice to let go of the anger, the hurt, and the betrayal. Tonight, I chose forgiveness. The past few months had been a blur of difficult conversations, long nights, and an overwhelming amount of emotional work. Jennifer had spent months facing the demons she had kept hidden for so long, while Jake had worked tirelessly to make amends. It wasn't easy. There were days when I thought we were all just spinning our wheels. When I doubted whether this fragile reconciliation could last. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, something changed. Jennifer became more grounded, more honest with herself and the world around her. Jake, for his part, was showing up in ways I hadn't expected. But even with all the progress, I couldn't ignore the nagging voice in the back of my mind. Could this ever be enough? Could we really rebuild everything that had been broken? The morning started like any other, but then the phone rang. "Mom, we need to talk," Jennifer said, her voice urgent but controlled. I knew immediately that this wasn't a normal conversation. Something had shifted again. I could feel the tension building in her voice. "What's wrong?" I asked, my heart starting to race. "I think I figured out what I need to do. But I can't do it alone." Her words sent a chill down my spine. Was she ready for another drastic change? Could she finally be ready to put everything behind her, including me? "I'm on my way," I said, trying to steady my voice. I arrived at Jennifer's apartment, and I could tell from the moment I stepped inside that something major was about to go down. Jennifer was standing by the window, looking out at the city, and Jake was sitting at the kitchen table, his head hung low. They didn't look like the couple I had once known. They didn't look like the same people who had been swept up in lies, betrayal, and danger. They looked like people who had been through hell and were now facing the consequences of their choices. "Mom, sit down," Jennifer said softly, gesturing to the chair across from Jake. "We need to talk." I could see the apprehension in their eyes. They were afraid of what was coming next. And I was afraid too, because deep down, I knew that this conversation would determine whether any of us could move forward. I sat down slowly, bracing myself. "Mom," Jennifer began, her voice trembling slightly. "Jake and I have been talking. And we've made a decision." I waited for her to continue, but my mind was racing. What decision? Was it about their relationship? Was it about the debt they had accumulated? Was it about me and what I had to do to stay involved in their lives? Jennifer took a deep breath before continuing. "We've decided to sell everything we have left. The house, the car, everything. We're going to use the money to pay off our debts, and we're going to start over. We don't want to keep dragging you into this. We don't want to keep relying on you to fix our mess." Jake nodded in agreement, his eyes filled with regret. "We've been talking to a financial advisor, and we've realized that we need to take responsibility for our actions. The only way to move forward is to cut all ties with the past. We've both decided it's time to face what we've done and rebuild our lives from scratch." I stared at them, trying to absorb what they were saying. They were giving up everything that they had fought so hard to keep. For a moment, I couldn't find the words. Then, slowly, I spoke. Are you both sure about this? You're not just running away from your problems. You're not just doing this to avoid dealing with the real issue, your lies, your debt, everything you've hidden. Jake looked up at me, his face etched with pain. This is the real deal, Alice. We've both been lying to ourselves for too long. We can't keep running. We're facing it now. And we need to start by making things right. Jennifer nodded. We want to make it right, Mom. For you. For us. For everyone we've hurt. The room was heavy with silence as I processed what they were saying. There was so much at stake. Jennifer was asking me to trust them again, to let them take control of their own fate. She was asking me to let go of the anger, the disappointment, and the fear. It wasn't an easy decision. I could feel my heart pulling in two different directions. Part of me wanted to forgive them, to believe that they were finally ready to take responsibility. But another part of me, the part that had been betrayed, was scared. What if they couldn't change? What if they only thought they were ready? But deep down, they were still the same people who had sold my home. But in that moment, something inside me shifted. I realized that if they were going to rebuild their lives, they needed my support. They needed to know that someone believed in them. They needed to know that forgiveness wasn't just a word, but something that could be earned. I looked at Jennifer, then at Jake. If you're serious about this, I said slowly, then I'm here. But this isn't going to be easy. You both have to prove that you're ready to face the truth, not just with me, but with yourselves. Jennifer and Jake exchanged glances. For the first time in a long time, I saw something in their eyes, a sense of relief. They were finally ready to stop pretending. They were finally ready to stop hiding from the truth. Thank you, Mom, Jennifer said, her voice filled with emotion. We'll prove it to you. We'll prove it to ourselves. Jake reached out and placed a hand on mine. Thank you for believing in us again, Alice. I know it's not easy, but we're going to make it right. I promise. That night, after they left, I sat alone in my apartment thinking about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the lies, the damage. But also the redemption, the possibility of rebuilding. I thought about my own choices, the things I had done, the things I had allowed to happen. I realized that forgiveness wasn't just about them. It was about me, too. It was about letting go of the anger, letting go of the past, and choosing peace for myself. The next day, I called Jennifer. I'm ready to be a part of this. But you have to promise me one thing. What is it, Mom? She asked. You have to promise me you'll keep fighting for yourself. That you'll keep making the hard choices, even when it's difficult. You can't stop. You can't give up. Because if you do, all this work will be for nothing. I promise, she said, her voice strong. We won't stop. And with that, we began a new chapter. It's a chapter full of mistakes, lessons, and second chances. It wasn't easy, but we were committed. I could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and this time we were all walking toward it together. It had been several months since I had decided to take a step back and allow Jennifer and Jake the chance to redeem themselves. The foundation of the life we once knew had crumbled, but I was watching them rebuild piece by piece. Things weren't perfect. They never would be. But they were better than before. Jennifer had committed to therapy, to facing the deep-rooted issues that had caused her to make the mistakes she had. Jake was making progress too. He had finally started opening up about his struggles, his past, and what had driven him to gamble, to lie, and to put everything they had, everything we had, at risk. For the first time, I could see a glimmer of who they used to be. The people I once loved, the people I had thought I'd lost forever, were showing signs of life again. But the hardest part? It wasn't their actions anymore. It was mine. Could I truly forgive them? Could I let go of the anger and the hurt they had caused me? It was a Sunday night when Jennifer called. Mom, Jake and I are making dinner. We want you to come over. I paused, my mind racing. Dinner. I hadn't been to their apartment in months. I had been avoiding it, unable to face the idea of sitting across from them in the place where all the betrayal had started. But I could feel it in my gut. This was the moment I needed. If I was going to forgive them, truly forgive them, I had to be there. I had to show up. I'll be there, I said, trying to sound calm, even though my heart was pounding. When I walked into their apartment, it felt different. There was an energy in the air, an openness that I hadn't felt before. The apartment, once cold and empty with lies, now felt warmer. A sense of healing had settled in. Jennifer was in the kitchen cooking dinner. She looked up as I entered and smiled nervously. "Hey, Mom, I'm glad you're here." I smiled back, but it was a tight smile. "What's all this?" I gestured to the food on the table. Jake was sitting at the table, his posture straighter than I'd ever seen. He looked at me, his face softening with a hint of guilt. We wanted to do something nice. No drama, no distractions. It's just a family meal. I nodded and took a seat at the table. "I didn't expect this," I said quietly. "But I'm glad you're trying." Jennifer placed a bowl of pasta in front of me and sat down across from me. "I've been thinking a lot about everything, Mom. About what I did and how I hurt you. And I realized that I don't want to hide anymore. I don't want to run from the things I've done. I want to face them." Jake looked at her, then at me. "We both do. It's been a long road, Alice. We know we can't erase what happened, but we're doing everything we can to make it right." I looked at them both. The words felt different this time. This wasn't just an apology. This was a declaration, a commitment to change. It wasn't easy to believe, but it was something I had to face. "I'm proud of you both," I said softly, looking down at my plate. "You've done the hard work. But it's not just about me forgiving you. It's about you forgiving yourselves." There was a long pause. The weight of the conversation hung in the air like a cloud, but it wasn't suffocating anymore. It was clear that no matter how much we had hurt each other, we were still family. And maybe that's what mattered the most. As we finished dinner, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Old memories, funny stories, and the moments we shared as a family before everything fell apart. But even as we joked and laughed, there was still something unsaid, something that needed to be addressed. Jennifer cleared her throat. "Mom, there's something I need to tell you. I've been keeping something from you." I raised an eyebrow. "What is it, Jen?" She hesitated, her eyes darting between Jake and me. "I've been talking to my therapist about everything. About my mistakes, about the guilt, the depression, ... And I realized something." She took a deep breath. "I've been blaming myself for everything, for the way things turned out with you and Jake. But I never stopped to think that I wasn't alone in this. That the choices I made, they were my choices, but they were influenced by what I'd seen growing up. By the way you and Dad handled your own issues, I felt the tension in my chest tighten. Jennifer, I've made my mistakes too. But we can't keep blaming the past. At some point, we all have to take responsibility for our own actions." Jennifer nodded. "I know, but I want you to understand that I never meant to hurt you. I never wanted to destroy everything we had. I thought I could fix things on my own, and I ended up making it worse." Jake added softly, "She's right. We can't change what happened, but we can change how we move forward. And that starts with honesty. Real honesty." For a moment, I just stared at them. And in that moment, I realized they were trying, truly trying. They weren't perfect, and they never would be. But they were working towards something better, and maybe that was enough. The night ended quietly. Jennifer and Jake had both shown me something I hadn't seen in a long time, a willingness to be vulnerable, to face the truth, and to fight for what mattered. But I wasn't ready to forgive everything yet. I wasn't ready to act like nothing had happened. I couldn't just let the past disappear without reckoning with it. The next day, I made a decision. I called Jennifer and Jake to meet me at the park. I needed to say something, something that had been building up inside me for months. When they arrived, I could see the nervous energy in their eyes. They knew something was coming, and so did I, but I also knew that this was the moment where everything could either fall apart again or finally heal. I took a deep breath and looked at them both. I've been thinking a lot about everything, about how much hurt we've caused and how much trust has been broken. I don't know if I can ever truly forgive you, but I know I can't keep carrying the weight of this anger. I turned to Jennifer first. You were my daughter, and I should have known something was wrong. I should have seen the signs, but I can't change the past. All I can do is try to be here for you now, and I will try. But only if you promise me one thing. What's that, Mom? Jennifer asked, her voice trembling. Promise me you'll keep fighting for yourself, for your happiness, for your future. Don't ever hide again. Don't ever let the guilt eat you alive. You have to take care of you first. She nodded, her eyes welling up. I promise, Mom, I will. I looked at Jake and you. You're not just doing this for Jennifer. You have to do this for yourself too. You need to face your demons, okay? And you need to be the man you promised to be. Jake swallowed hard. I know, Alice. I've been doing the work, and I'll keep doing it. I nodded slowly. Then we're done. No more lies. No more running. We start fresh, but only if we all promise to keep moving forward together. We walked away from that park. Kay realized that I wasn't just walking away from the past. I was walking into a new future. One where forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant understanding. It meant healing. Kay, and most of all, it meant letting go. The weight had finally lifted. It had been months since the last time I'd sat down with Jennifer and Jake. Months since we'd made that final decision to rebuild, to start over from the mess they had created. I had hoped for the best, but in the back of my mind, I had always wondered if we were truly capable of healing the wounds from the past. The weight of our past mistakes still lingered, but it wasn't the same. There was something in the air now, something that felt different. Maybe it was the progress we had made. Maybe it was the long, difficult journey to redemption. But this time it felt like it was actually possible. I sat in my living room one evening, waiting for them to come over. I wasn't sure what to expect anymore, but I knew I had one last thing to say. One final decision that would determine whether this could all work. The doorbell rang, and my heart skipped a beat. It was them. Jennifer and Jake stood in the doorway, their faces filled with both hope and uncertainty. They had been doing the work, and I could see the difference in their eyes. They weren't the same people who had walked away from me months ago. They had changed, but had it been enough? Mom, we wanted to talk to you, Jennifer said quietly, her voice trembling slightly. I looked at them both. About what? Jake spoke up first, his voice sincere. We've been working hard, Alice, and I think we've finally come to the point where we need to decide what happens next for us. And for you. Jennifer nodded. We've made a lot of mistakes, and I've hurt you in ways I can never undo. But I've learned so much in the past few months. I've learned how to face my demons, how to be honest with myself and everyone around me. But most of all, I've learned how to be accountable for my actions. I felt the tightness in my chest, the raw emotions coming back up. "And Jake," I asked, looking at him, "have you finally faced the truth about yourself? About what you did to this family?" He swallowed hard, his eyes filled with guilt. "I'm trying, Alice, every day. I can't change what I did, but I'm doing everything I can to make it right." I stared at them, waiting for something more. They had done a lot of talking, but it was time to see if they meant it. Jennifer took a deep breath. "Mom, there's something I need to tell you. Something I've kept from you because I didn't want you to be disappointed in me." I raised an eyebrow, my heart already starting to race. "What is it?" She hesitated, then looked down at her hands. "When I sold the penthouse, I wasn't just trying to cover up the debts. I was running from something else. I was afraid of letting you down, afraid of losing everything, even you." I couldn't understand what she was saying. "What do you mean?" Jake spoke up, his voice quieter now. "Jennifer didn't just sell the penthouse to get out of financial trouble. She did it to try to fix things that couldn't be fixed. She was trying to prove to herself that she could do it on her own. But instead, she ended up hurting everyone, including herself." Jennifer nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I thought if I could fix everything, if I could make it all better, you wouldn't be disappointed in me. But it didn't work. I hurt you. I hurt Dad. I hurt myself. I stood there absorbing what they were telling me. And now, what happens now? We want to make things right, Alice. We want to prove to you that we're capable of change. We want to show you that we can be the family we used to be. But we need your help. We need your forgiveness." I looked at Jennifer and Jake, feeling the weight of their words. They had made a lot of promises, but promises were easy. Actions were hard. Could I trust them again? Could I truly forgive them for everything they had done? For so long, I had been holding on to the past, holding on to the anger, the disappointment, the feeling of being betrayed by the people I loved most. But deep down, I knew I couldn't keep carrying it. I couldn't let it eat me alive. Had to make a choice. "Can't forget what happened," I said quietly, my voice shaking. "I can't pretend like everything is fine, like you didn't hurt me. But what I can do is forgive you, and that's all I can give. Because I've learned that forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about moving forward. Not for you, but for me." Jennifer looked up at me, her face filled with hope. "You'll forgive us." "I can," I said, my voice breaking. "But it's going to take time, and it's going to take work. You both have to show me that you're willing to keep fighting for each other, fighting for yourself. You can't stop now." "Not after everything." Jake nodded. "We won't stop." I promised. That evening we sat down together as a family, the three of us, and it felt like the weight of everything had finally lifted. We had faced the hardest part of the journey, but there was still work to be done. There were still steps we had to take, decisions we had to make. But for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: hope. We weren't the same family we once were. We were different. We were scarred. But we were still family, and that was enough. Months passed. Jennifer continued her therapy, and Jake kept working to pay off the remaining debts. They were doing the hard work, and for the first time, I saw them fighting for their future, not just trying to survive, but to thrive. I watched them both, seeing the changes in their eyes, in their actions. They were no longer running from the truth. They were facing it, accepting it, and using it to rebuild their lives. And as for me, I had finally forgiven them. It wasn't easy, but it was the right choice. and it was the only way I could move forward. One day, Jennifer came to me with a proposal. Mom, I was thinking, if you're ready, maybe we could start over. Not just as a family, but as individuals. If we could build something new, something that's just for us. I smiled, knowing that what she was asking for wasn't just a new start. It was a chance to heal. Together, I think that's a great idea, I said softly. But we do it on our own terms. We don't need to rush. We'll take it one day at a time. As the seasons changed, so did we. Slowly but surely, we built our lives back up, brick by brick. There were still challenges, still moments of doubt and fear, but we faced them together, and every day we moved forward. In the end, that's all any of us could do. Move forward. If you've enjoyed this emotional journey, hit like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more Payback Files stories, where every ending proves that redemption is possible, but only if you were willing to fight for it.